Now, what's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to show you how to implement a server-to-server communication using JSON Web Tokens, specifically JSON Web Signature tokens, and we are going to use the HMAC digital signature for that. So if you're not familiar with JWTs or JSON Web Signature and JSON Web Tokens in general, then please check out a couple of my previous videos, because there I explain on a conceptual level what we can do with these tokens and what they are used for. But let's just imagine the following scenario. So we have two servers. Let's just call them server A and server B. And they want to talk to each other. They want to exchange sensitive information. And to do that, we run into a couple of security challenges. So for one, we need to make sure that in general, the message, if it travels through the network, that we are using a secure protocol, right? Something like HTTPS to prevent like man-in-the-middle attacks, right? Because otherwise you could have a hacker and you could intercept like this message. But we're just going to assume that we will only use HTTPS to make sure that we cannot have man-in-the-middle attacks. Now, the only other issue we need to solve is that if server B receives a message, how does it know that this message comes from a trusted party like server A, or whether this comes from an untrusted party or like from a hacker? And to do this, we need some form of authentication. And yeah, JWT tokens or JSON Web Tokens are like one way of providing this authentication. And previously I mentioned like what HMAC is. Like HMAC is the signature algorithms we're going to use to generate these JSON Web Tokens. And one thing to keep in mind here is that if we're using HMAC, so hashed message authentication code, or sometimes keyed hash message authentication code, we have a shared secret. So the people running server A and the people running server B, they must exchange like this secret, which I just put as a like yellow key here, so that you know, okay, both servers need to have the same secret. Now, in a production scenario, you would probably go with something different, like you would go with RSA and have private and public keys. But for the time being, I just thought it's easier to first start with HMAC, and then later on, when it's clear how HMAC works, we can talk about like how to do it with private and public keys. Cool. So before we now start talking forever, let's just let's just jump into the code. There's my keyboard here. I think I want to create it in here. Yeah. So go to the project location where you want to create the project. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a directory, and let me just check something. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, I'm going to make a directory and I'm going to call it JWT server to server. And then I'm going to cd into this, and I'm going to run npm init -yes to generate like a package.json file, and then we can code this file. So here it is. Yes, let's open a terminal. And by the way, I've increased the font size a little bit so that it's easier to read for you guys. Just let me know what you think, if it's good, or maybe it's still too small, then I'll see what I can do. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to install some packages. So let's install Express. We will also need Axios, and we will also need something else. So let me check. Yeah, this one. So this package here, it's called JSON Web Token by auth0. This package can be used to create and verify JSON Web Tokens, specifically JSON Web Signature tokens. So that's pretty good. And yeah, that's what we're going to use. So what we need to do is we need to npm install JSON Web Token as well. So let's say npm install JSON Web Token. Okay, and that should be pretty much it, I think. Now let's create an index.js file. Here it is, and I'm just going to create an express app in here. So I will say const express equals require express, and yeah, then I will say const app equals express, and then at the very bottom, yeah, so we need to plug in like a couple of things into our application, but maybe before we do that, we can just start the server. So we'll just say app.listen. I'm just going to say 8080, and I'm going to say console log, oops, server listening on port 8080. And by the way, I'm just using backticks because later on we're going to have like a proper configuration. Okay, so we now have like a very easy and minimal server. But let's just go back to our diagram real quick, because I just want to make one thing clear. So what we're doing now is we're creating one code base, but ultimately, like for demonstration purposes, we're going to spin up two servers. And these two servers, they will have the exact same code base. I just wanted to mention that here. So we're not going to create two different projects. We're going to create one project with two servers. And to do that, we need to implement some form of configuration, right? So that we can start yeah, one particular server, or that we can make sure that we have two servers running at the same time. Nice. And in order to do that, we need some configuration. So what I will just do here is I will just make a directory, and I'm going to call it config. And inside of this config directory, I'm going to put an index.js file. And here we want to write some code to make sure that that we can configure our servers. So I'm just going to create an object, or I'm just going to export an object. And typically you would use like some library for configuration, something like convict or something similar, something along those lines. But for now, like for this tutorial, I just did not want to pull an additional dependency in. So that's why I'm just going to, yeah, just make a plain object here. And if we look at the diagram again, each server needs like a couple of different options to configure. So for one, the server itself needs to know like where it is running, like on which port it is running. And it also needs to know how to reach the respective other server, right? So server A would run on port, I don't know, 8080, but it needs to know that server B is running on port 8081, right? And what I will do is I will say, if like all configuration that does not have any prefix is concerned with the current server, and if the prefix is something with partner, then it's the respective other server, okay? And this is what we're just going to do. So I'm just going to say partner server host, localhost. So say we are running server A, then this would be server B. And then I will say partner server port. I think I'm going to use some envar here, and then I will say partner server name. Now that server name is actually not really required, but I'm just going to use it anyway because we're going to log some stuff. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to say that we are going to pull the port of the partner server from an environment variable called partner server port. And then the same thing pretty much here. So we're going to say process.env.partner server name. Okay. So the stuff up here is for the configuration of the partner server. And now we need basically the same set of variables for the server that we are going to run, right? So we need host name. We will also run on localhost. We will have like a server name, which will be process.env.server name. And port will be process.env.port. Okay, that should be fine. Now, at first, this might be a little bit confusing, right? Why do we have partner and that kind of stuff? But I just want to reiterate one more time. So that stuff here, this will be the configuration that the current server is using, right? So it will start up on this port, on process.env.port, and it will try to reach out to the partner server on a partner server port, like on that configuration over here, right? So if that is like a little bit unclear, just wait a little bit. It will be pretty clear like once we have the server running. But I already see that we are already over 10 minutes. So let's just stop the video here and let's continue in the next one. So thank you very much for watching. Please make sure to give the video a thumbs up. Leave me a comment if you have a question. You can also reach out to me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @productioncoder. And I've also set up an email list where you guys can sign up. So if you are interested in more content, then you can have a say in what we will cover next on that channel. The link is in the video description down below. Again, thank you very much for watching. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.